This is from Goodbye Stranger. You don't know how to lose, Jeremy Padley said. Then he turned to face the smog-yellow city and leapt out of the 40th floor window. With his oversized body gone, the dirty wind rushed towards June. It thrummed in her ears, pushed against her face, chilled her skin, rattled her bones. Don't step forward, it said. She stepped forward. Don't look. Grasping the window frame, she leant out through the shattered glass and looked down. Broken and crumpled over a dumpster, Jeremy seemed tiny, depleted. The man he once was, the man who burnt crumpets and wrote papers at 2 a.m. and sang in supermarkets, had disappeared. June stepped back from the jagged and broken space. She straightened her clothes and smoothed down her wind-blown hair. Then she crouched down, started to scream, and couldn't stop. June walked down the dead corridor to the white door. Entry required a swipe card and a 6-digit PIN. The light turned green and the machine gave a happy beep. Inside the sterilisation room, she followed the procedures by rote. Antiseptic hand wash, sterile slippers, hair cover, lab coat, gloves. On the bench opposite hers, Jeremy sat talking about in vitro fertilisation procedures and how they could be modified to work for amphibians. She shut her eyes and opened them again. His ghost had vanished, although his words continued to rumble in her ears. Entry to their lab was biometric and voice activated. She gazed into the red laser and said, "June Padley." She was surprised by how steady her voice sounded, surprised again when the door swung inward. Couldn't it hear that her name was now a lie? How could she keep his name when there was no him? The lab was no different from when they left. Hermetically fresh, spotlessly clean. A lower chair had been pulled up to the frog terrarium and a new scientist sat on the bench. Students sitting death watch required entertainment. June tisked at the unnecessary contaminant brought into the lab. They'd better not have been eating. She looked in the bin, but there was only a crumpled tissue. Next, she checked the terrarium. Frances was burrowed beneath the leaf litter near the back of the glass tank. Her mottled brown skin was moist, but June worried she was smaller. Carefully, June fetched her out and placed her thumb-sized body on the scale. No change in weight. Breeding flanges still present. Belly, white and speckled. Condition, good. No toxic response, no sign of fungal infection. June took a swab to make sure. Frances's bulbous eyes blinked up at June. June forced her hand across her mouth, yet a sob still escaped through her shuttered lips. Frances crouched low, startled by the sound. "I'm sorry." There was no crying in the lab. June took a deep breath to contain herself and swapped her gloves for fresh. As she scooped up Frances to place her back in the terrarium, Frances let out a little bonk. "Tell me about it," June said. "I understand, of course I do, but thank God you're back." Earlier that day, Tamara, clad in her usual 3-piece business suit, had escorted June from the taxi and past the protesters. The group had grown. Some sat in circles chanting and trying to protect their candles from the exhaust fumes that gusted down the gridlock street. Others waved cardboard signs with phrases like, "Free Francis," "A lab is no place to die," and "Habitat is home." Some had scruffy, matted dreadlocks. Most wore a variety of wooden beads around wrists and necks. All coughed and sputtered the polluted air that pooled around the base of the skyscrapers. June admired their dedication. A woman yelled out as they passed, "Frogs need freedom." "Not frogs, plural, honey. Frog, singular," Tamara replied. And that was from Goodbye Stranger.